speak of. And he told me a bit about his life, and it sort of made me realize that I had a very important topic that I believe he could even learn from. The topic is, do what you can with what you have where you are. Do what you can with what you have where you are. All through my life, I've been a man of change, of reinvention. So I decided that I'm going to tell you a bit about my life, and then when I get done with that, we'll have a question and answer period, because I know many of you will have many more questions of subjects that I probably didn't cover. So let's first start out about the Roosevelt family. My family started out like most families did, as immigrants coming into a world of opportunity. My early relatives, the Roosevelts, came from a place called Amsterdam into a new place called New Amsterdam. Now in New Amsterdam, there was farmland available. There was much opportunity. There were very few people. We're talking the 1600s, a very early part of American history. My first Roosevelt was a fairly smart man. He came with some seed capital and a good idea. He purchased a 48-acre land property, a farm, which he was going to develop. You now know that farm now as Manhattan. It was a good investment. He continued to invest throughout his life and proceeded to have many children, and they invested in many things. And the thing that my father was a partner in a business called Roosevelt and Sons. They imported from Amsterdam plate glass that was used in all of the buildings being built in New York. So everyone that had a window on the world probably had it through a Roosevelt piece of glass. Now the asthma had not left. As a matter of fact, one time I had a terrible asthma attack, and my parents decided that they were going to send me to a camp in Maine at a place called Moosehead Lake. Well, they put me on the train. I was 12 years old, and I was on the way to Moosehead Lake, and there were two young boys there. Very decent boys, I'm sure, but still boys nonetheless. And they saw in me the perfect victim. They proceeded to pound on my shoulder as we took the train up, and by the time we got to Moosehead Lake, I was doing everything for them the entire week. When I got irritated with them, I would try to fight them, but needless to say, they knew how to handle me without any problem. As a matter of fact, they could beat on me and give me just a slight amount of pain, and no matter what I tried to do to them, I could not inflict any amount of injury whatsoever. I told my father of this. He said, "Theodore, you have the mind. You spend all of your time in bed reading. You have the knowledge. You do not have the body. If you expect your body to take you where your mind is, you must begin to make your body like you make your mind." Now, we were out in the country. I could breathe. All that smoke was gone. I could take in all that fresh breath, and I began to relate nature to breathing. As a matter of fact, I would fill my pockets with everything that I could find, because obviously we had to stop and rest the horses. And so I would pick up a stick or a rock and I would put it in my pocket and I would take it home. That included snakes and frogs and insects, anything I could find. Now I know you mothers are here. You probably were very pleased when your sons brought home snakes and lizards and put them in their bedroom, weren't you? Well, my mother was about the same way. She was not terribly pleased with it, but she did recognize, as well as my father, that that was something that was very important to me. I was 8 years old. One of those rare times that I was allowed to go on a little bit of an adventure, and my mother said, "Theodore, why don't you go down to the market, which is only 2 blocks from our home, and purchase strawberries to bring back for breakfast?" Well, I was very excited, and I went down to the market, and as I walked along, I saw a fishmonger, a fish salesperson. And next to their fish table was a large wooden plank, and on that plank was laying a harbor seal. I had been bedridden all of my life, reading books. And I had been reading about Mayne Reid's books, about adventures, things that I never imagined I would ever get to do. And that seal all of a sudden filled my mind with the idea that this seal had gone on all these great sea adventures. I would go to that market every day, and I would take my ruler and I would try to do rudimentary measurements of that animal, fascinated by him. I would go home and say, "Father, please, can we please purchase that seal?" My father, being a smart man, said, "We do not need a stinking rotted seal in the house, Theodore." But he recognized how important it was to me. Eventually, that seal got to the point where the fishmonger could not sell it, and he cut off the seal's head. And he handed me the head. And I took it home and I boiled it. Phoca vitulina was my very first specimen in what I call the Roosevelt Museum of Natural History. Of course, it was in my bedroom. But this was my prized possession. I would put it up on my shelf, and I would bring all of my cousins in, and we would talk about it. And eventually, I convinced them that they, too, should join my museum. At the ripe old age of 9, I had my very first museum.